Right. So at the end of this class, you will be able to give the bearing of 1 point relative to another using three figures. You'll be able to, well, you don't necessarily need to draw diagrams to show the bearing of points relative to other points in CSEC. You have to be able to identify them though, and then we'll hopefully be able to solve problems involving distances and bearings as well. So what is this whole three-figure bearing thing about? Well, let's say you have a point. This point is E, and then I have another point up here, and this point is B, right? And I want to know what is the bearing, what is the bearing of E from E. So there are some important things that you need to know when you're doing bearings, right? The first thing is that you need to identify where is your starting point. And because they say from E, my starting point is going to be E, right? Bearing of B from E. Second thing that we do is we draw a line connecting E to B. So I'm going to draw a line from E to B like this, right? And now at my starting point, because I want to know what is the bearing of B from A, I am going to put what we call a north line at A. So this line here is the north line. It's pointing in the direction of north, so I call it the north line. So now I have this diagram here where I have the points A and B, this line connecting A to B, so the line AB, and then a north line at A. The reason I have the north line at A is because I want to know what is the bearing of B from A. So you see this angle here? This angle formed between the north line at A and the line connecting A to B. This is called your bearing of B from A. This is my bearing of B from A. Right? So specific things that I want you to pay attention to. One is that if it is the bearing of B from A, I am going to be looking at the north line at A, right? And the angle, the bearing is going to be between that north line at A and the line AB. All right. So there are some things about bearings that you need to know as well. One is that it is the angle formed between the north line and the line connecting whichever 2 points you're looking at. It has to be the clockwise angle, right? So if you're thinking about clockwise, clockwise is going in this direction, right? So this is clockwise, right? And of course, anti-clockwise will be going in the opposite direction. So anti-clockwise will be going in this direction, right? So we are looking at the clockwise angle between the north line at A and the line connecting A to B. That will be the bearing of B from A. So the bearing of B from A is the clockwise angle. So the clockwise angle formed between the north line, so formed between the north line at A and the line AB. Because there is another angle between the north line at A and the line AB, yeah? That would be this angle here, this angle around here. But that is your anti-clockwise angle. So that is not the bearing. The bearing is the clockwise angle. So those are very important points, guys, to be able to correctly identify the clockwise angle between the north line at your starting point and the line connecting your 2 points that you're interested in, right? So let's look at some more examples. So again, let's say you have A again. So this is A. Let's say this is B, right? The bearing of A from B, well, first, it's going to be the line connecting A to B, right? And then I'm going to put my north line at A. If I'm looking at my bearing of of B from A, the angle here, let's say this angle is, hold on. Yeah, let's say this angle here is 58 degrees. So this is another point about your bearings. another point about your bearings is that if this angle is 58 degrees, notice that the heading was three-figure bearings, right? So for any angle that is less than 100, you have to represent the angle in three figures. So what we do is we use a zero, right? So in this one, the bearing of E from A is 058 degrees, right? So you represent bearings in using three figures, okay? Let's say I had A over here, and then let's say B was down here instead, right? If I want to know what is the bearing of B from A, again, if it's from A, it's going to be, you have to put your north line at A. You draw your line connecting A to B, and the bearing will be angle between the north line at A, my starting point, and that line AB. So let's say this angle is 111 degrees. Then the bearing of B from A here, well, it will just be 111 because that's already three figures. All right. Now consider if I had my point A over here and my point B over here, right? And I still want to know what is the bearing of B from A. Well, let's draw our line AB, right? So you have your line connecting A to B, all right? And then if it's the bearing of B from A, you want your north line to be at A. The north line always goes at wherever your starting point is, where you're measuring the bearing from. So if it's from A, the north line goes here. And I know I've repeated that like several times, but I really want that to be stuck in your head, right? Because it's important to correctly identify where your north line is going. Oh. So first, I want to know what is the bearing of B from A. Now, there are two angles here. One angle is going to be inside here, right? This is one angle. And then the other angle is here, right? Can anybody tell me which of these would represent the bearing of B from A? Would it be the yellow one or the green one?
Yellow.
No, it wouldn't be the yellow. You know why it wouldn't be the yellow? Because this angle, this yellow angle, if you're starting at the north line, then this angle will be opening. Sorry, I should use the same color. It would be opening in a anti-clockwise direction. This direction here is anti-clockwise. So this will not be the bearing of B from A. The bearing of B from A would actually be the green one because this is a clockwise direction. If you're starting here, this angle opens and it goes in this direction. So your bearing of B from A in this case would be 219. Well, let's just assume, right? Because this is not drawn to scale. So your bearing here of B from A, in this one, the bearing of B from A is 299 degrees, right? And the reason is that this angle is always your clockwise angle, right? It's always your clockwise angle. So look for the clockwise angle. If we were looking from here, then that means the angle will be opening in this direction. So that's in an anti-clockwise direction. And for your three-figure bearings, there are certain conditions. One, it has to be three figures, and two, it has to be the clockwise angle. All right. Now, I wanted the bearing of A from B instead, then I will actually have my north line at B, right? And then my line connecting B to A. So my angle, my bearing of A from B will be this angle. Isn't it drawing? Hold on. Yeah, this angle. This would be my bearing of A from B, right? So um, that's why you have to be very careful with your bearings. So just to make sure you all jot these things down, eh? So let's go back. In three-figure bearings, let's say you have, and you want to know what is the bearing of B from A. So it's the bearings basically it describes the direction in which one point lies relative to another, right? So here, if you have this point A and this point B, and I want to know what is the bearing of B from A, because it's from A, it means you're starting at A, and that's where you'll put your north line, right? The bearing of B from A. So if you're here, to get to B, you would have to turn in this clockwise direction here. And this clockwise angle is called your bearing of B from A. There's a clockwise angle formed between the north line and the line AB. All right. Um, so some of the examples here, like this was similar to the first one. This one, if you have A here and B over here, then the bearing will be 111 degrees because it's the clockwise angle between the north line at A and the line AB. In this one, where B was to the left of A, if you're still looking at the bearing of B from A, it has to be the clockwise angle um, between the north line at A and the line connecting A to B. Right, so let's see. Let's say I had um say I have P. Okay, so this is P. And let's say Q is over here. And I want to know what is the bearing of Q from P. Because it's at P, because it's from P, that means we're starting at P. So we're gonna put our north line at P, right? And I'm gonna draw my line connecting P to Q. So the bearing of Q from P, well, I'm gonna put in another piece of information here. So let's say this angle here is 72 degrees. This is my north line, right, at P. Can anybody tell me how you might figure out what is the bearing of Q from P? Is it 72 degrees? Anybody? With a try now? Would the bearing of Q from P be equal to 72 degrees or no? Isabel, did you say something? Because I saw your mic off.
Miss, it wouldn't be equal to 72
No, it wouldn't be equal to 72. Why?
because the north line it has to go clockwise.
Correct. So then so it will be the angle on the outer part, right?
Yeah.
So it's actually going to be the reflex angle. I don't know if you'll remember that word reflex angle, more than 180, less than 360. So it's going to be the reflex angle here. So therefore, if I need to find what's the reflex angle here, how can I find it?
Miss, you subtract 72 from 360
That's right. Why?
because the circle is 360 degrees and you already have 72, so you need to find the reflex angle.
Exactly. So the bearing of Q from P would be the reflex angle at P. So that is 360 degrees, take away 72 degrees. And that would give me how much? I think it's 288. I don't have my calculator. Where's my, somebody check it for me, please. Let me get my
Yes,
phone.
Miss.
Yeah, 288, right? So the bearing of Q from P will be the reflex angle at P because it's the clockwise angle, right? Between the north line at P and the line connecting P to Q. All right. What about this one? And I'm not, and there are no trick questions here, okay? Whatever you see. is whatever it is. All right. So let's say, make sure you write this down, please. And if you're just gonna wait until after class, it's fine, but make sure you're following at least. Okay, so let's say I have a point A, another point B, and AB is connected here. I have my north line at A, right? And then this angle here, this angle is 62 degrees. I want to know what is the bearing of B from A? Anybody? What is the bearing of B from A in this one? See. Ari, what do you think is the bearing of B from A? Ah,
Miss, I don't know.
don't know?
No, did you guys start this topic last week?
No, we started it today.
Oh.
So let's go back. If you have 2 points, let's say A and B, okay, and you want to know what is the bearing of B from A, first thing, from A, so your north line goes at A, right? So that's why I'm going to draw it over. So if you have 2 points, you have A and you have B, right? So this is A and this is B here. If I want to know what is the bearing of B from A, I will identify my starting point. That's A, right? Because it says from A. So then A is my starting point, and this is where I will put my north line. Okay? And then I have this line connecting A to B. Bearing of B from A is this angle here, angle at A between the north line and that line AB. So this is my bearing. Is that okay? Do you understand the diagram? This diagram that I just drew here? Sorry, I'm speaking to you.
Kinda.
What do you not understand about this diagram here? Tell me. Let's go through it again.
Actually, I think I got it, maybe.
Right. So if you have, I'm going to draw several diagrams, okay? And then we're going to go back to that question. So let's say I have a point, I have a line, sorry. So I have this line, this is B, right? The bearing of B from A, so it's always, you have to be important, you have to think about the language, right? When it says from A, it means you're starting at A. So here will be your north line. This angle formed between A and B, and sorry, between the line AB and that north line, that's your bearing of B from A. If it was, let's say it was P and Q, and I have a point here is P, and here is Q, right? This line connecting the points. If I want to know what is the bearing of Q from P, because it's from P, that's where my north line has to go. So I'm going to put my north line here. This is my north line, right? The bearing of Q from P will be this angle here. This is the angle, right? It's a clockwise angle because this angle opens from the north line to B. This angle opens from the north line to Q. It's always going to be the clockwise angle. So let's say I had a point M, and then I have another point here. This point is N. And I want to know what is the bearing of N from M. What is the starting point? N or M? Ari.
M.
M, right? Because it says from M. M is your starting point. So your bearing is going to be so you connect M to N, right? So that's the line MN. You're going to put your north line at the starting point. So I'm putting my north line here. The bearing is going to be this clockwise angle over here. It's not, in all of these, you have two angles. You have an anti-clockwise angle and you have a clockwise angle. In this one, the first one here, A to B, B from A, you also have this angle here. But this would not be the bearing because this is an anti-clockwise direction. Remember, going this direction is anti-clockwise, going this direction is clockwise. So you're always going to choose the clockwise angle, right? So the bearing of, in this one, of N from M is going to be this one over here. Oops, sorry. Yeah, it's going to be here because this is your clockwise angle, right? That is an obtuse angle. The other angle, which is a reflex angle, will not be your bearing of N from M because that goes in an anti-clockwise direction. Okay. Now, if you had another point, let's say A was here instead, and B is over here, right? And I want to know the bearing of B from A, right? Where's your starting point, B or A?
A,
A is your starting point. Why is that your starting point?
because it says from A.
That's right, because it's from A, right? So this is your starting point. So I'm gonna put my north line there, right? And then my line connecting both of them to make my line AB. Now there are two angles here, right? There is this angle here on this side of at A. You have two angles at A, this one, right? And then you also have this angle in this direction. Which one will be the bearing, the red or the green?
The red one.
Why?
Because the green one is going anti-clockwise.
That's right. So the bearing is the clockwise angle. So this one is your bearing of B from A because it's the clockwise angle at A connecting, well, between the north line at A and the line AB. Do you think you have it a little bit now? Does it make a
Yeah.
little more
How do
sense?
you, yeah.
All right.
How do you know
So,
like where to put the letters? Like how do you do that?
well, I
Or do
just
they
made
give it
that,
to you?
yeah, they give that to you. I'm just giving you examples. So
Okay.
they'll give you the question. So like in this first one here that we did, right? This is the line PQ, right? And I wanted to know what's the bearing of Q from P. So, and this was given to you. The question is given here. The question is you have the P and Q and you have this angle of 70 degrees between P and Q there, right? And the question is what is the bearing of Q from P? So the bearing of Q from P is not going to be 72 degrees. Why is it not 72 degrees?
Because
So
it's going anti-clockwise.
that's right, because it's going anti-clockwise. So there are only two angles there, right? The 72-degree, which is the acute angle, as well as this reflex angle around here, right? And that is the bearing of Q from P, the reflex angle. Now, to find the measure of that angle, I would have to subtract 72 degrees from 360 because all the angles around a point adds up to 360 degrees. So around this entire point P, you have 360 degrees. So if you have this little portion that is 72, then the reflex angle will be 360 take away 72, which gives us 288 degrees. Therefore, the bearing of Q from P is 288 degrees. So my question to you now, this is it here. You have you have your points A and B, and we want to know what is the bearing of B from A. Would it be that angle of 62 degrees or the other angle around A?
It would be that angle of 62
Correct. Why is that?
because it's going clockwise.
Correct. Perfect. I hope you guys understood. Ari, that was useful, huh? You saying you didn't understand was very useful, I'm sure, to yourself and to anybody else who may have been a little confused. Parents confuse students all the time, guys. That's why I wanted to do it before we look at any other trigonometry questions. But yes, the angle of B from A here is 62 degrees because it is the clockwise angle between the north line at A and the line AB. All right, so this one, it was already given there. The bearing of B from A is equal to, well, remember it's three figures, right? So if it's three figures, you're going to put a 0 in front. So it'll be 0 0.62 degrees. Thank you, Ari.
Miss, before you change it, can I write it down?
Of course, go ahead. I'm just gonna throw the second one. And this one, let me see. Nia, you're gonna answer me for the second, for number 3, okay? Where's Nia?
Okay, Miss.
Okay, good. All right, so let's say I have A and B again. Okay, hold on, I'm drawing it. Not finished. Okay, Nia, what is the bearing of B from A?
Of B from A. Okay, so with it, my letter through now. Would it not be like it have something to do? Would it not be? We'd miss it similar to we do give my head it's similar to what we do to either one or two.
Of course it is. It's the same topic.
No, I mean like how we solve it, you know, like I mean like how we solve it.
You tell me. What is the bearing of B from A, first of all? What are you looking at?
Okay, of B from A from well point A to B.
Okay, so is it going to be that 98 degrees or is it going to be the angle, the other angle at A? Because for every question where you
I
have one angle identified, there's also another angle there. So you have this angle of 98 degrees, and then there's also another angle there, which is around here. This is another angle. So this is the reflex angle at A.
I think it's the reflex angle.
No, that's not correct. It's
Mm,
the
it's
acute, not acute, it's obtuse because 90, more than 90. Remember, guys, that your bearing is always the clockwise angle between your north line and your line, right? So your bearing of B from A means you're starting at A. That's why I have this north line at A, right? And you're looking for the clockwise angle between that north line and the line AB. So there are two angles here. One here is your clockwise. This one is your clockwise angle, right? So it's always the clockwise angle because you're going to have two angles around any point. You're going to have a clockwise angle and you're going to have an anti-clockwise angle. You have to be able to identify which angle is your clockwise angle and which one is your anti-clockwise angle. In this case, the reflex angle here is anti-clockwise. So that is not your bearing. Your bearing is the clockwise angle. So the answer for this one will just be 098 degrees. And the reason I write 098 is because it's 3 figures that you need to use for your bearing question. So if you have a number that's less than 100, you have to put a 0 in front of it. Right, Nia? So if we look back at all of these examples here, in this one, the bearing of B from A, again, it's your clockwise angle. Clockwise angle from your starting point. A is your starting point, so that's your north line. This is your clockwise angle between your north line and the line AB. Here, Q from P is going to be this angle. First of all, it's from P, so your north line goes here, right? So this angle here is your clockwise angle at P, so that's your bearing. In this question, N from M, it's from M, so that is where your north line goes, and the bearing is going to be the clockwise angle from that line N to your line MN. Right? Nia, stay with me. I want you to do another one.
yeah.
Look at right, and this one, right? If you want your bearing of B from A, right? You have two angles here at A. You're gonna have a anti-clockwise angle at A, your starting point, and also a clockwise angle. So in this case, the angle, the bearing is this reflex angle because that's the clockwise angle if you're opening from N. All right? So let's look at another one. Let's say Nia, don't worry. It could be tricky, okay? So let me draw one. This is number 4. So this is B and E is here. I'm just using A and B. Use any letters. Hold on. Let me finish. Good. So, oh, and this angle here is 32 degrees. All right, Nia. So I want my bearing of G from E.
Okay, so of B from A, and it had a come from the north, from anything. Okay, would it not be the first? Would it not be the first thing I say, miss? I don't even know anymore. Because one minute I think I understand it. Well, is it not like not the 32, the thing that is not the 32, miss?
The reflex angle, right? So
Yeah,
you have 2
that's,
angles here. You have one angle here, the outside.
yeah, and then you have
That's
the
the
32.
clockwise one, right? And then you have this 32, which is anti-clockwise.
So it'd be
So it
360
can't,
minus 32.
that's right. Okay? So the bearing of B from A here is the reflex angle at A. Reflex angle at A, and the reason it's that is because that's your clockwise angle. So as you said, you would have to say 360 take away 32 because around A, around that point A, you have 360 degrees, right? So it will be 360 take away 32, which is how much?
328, miss.
328. That's correct. Yeah, you have to stop panicking so much, my love. We just in class. It's okay to work it out with me. There's no panicking. I'm not giving. There's no marks. And even if it was marked, who cares? It's not like it's an
Miss,
exam or anything.
I'm traumatized, miss. You know what I
I
get into?
realize. I realize, but we have to get to the bottom of that because you start panicking so quickly that you doubt yourself, and plenty times you're correct. So don't doubt yourself. Don't panic so quickly. Stop and take a deep breath. You have this, honey. Okay, let me see. Zafi, are you there? Didn't hear Zafi for the whole evening.
Hi.
Okay, Zafi, let's do one together, okay?
Okay.
Right. So let's say B is here. A is here. Right, so that's my north line there. This angle is 98 degrees. Zafi, I want the bearing of B from
Well, it would be the outside angle. I cannot remember the name of either of the outside angles.
fine. So yeah, it would be this
However,
angle here, right? Why is it that
chooses the
angle? Zafi, why is it this angle?
because the one on the inside that was given,
Mm,
the number 4, is anti-clockwise and
yeah,
not clockwise.
yeah, correct. And a bearing is the
That's how I
clockwise angle.
memorize it. That's how I memorize it. Anytime the A is on the right side, it's the outside angle, and when it's on the left side, it's the inside angle.
That works for sure. However, you have to remember it, right? So I mean, you don't need to know that the reason I'm using the words reflex, obtuse, acute, because I want you all to remember those words. Like you learned that in like maybe standard 4 or something. An acute angle is an angle that is less than 90 degrees. So anywhere between 0 to 90 degrees. obtuse angle is between, well, a right angle is 90 degrees. An obtuse angle is an angle that is more than 90 degrees, but less than 180. So like in this one, in question 5, this one here is actually an obtuse angle, right? 98, because it's more than 90 degrees. And then a refractory angle is more than 180, but less than 360. Okay? So I'm just writing these words because I just want you all to get familiar again with the names of angles. It's not too important. Actually, no. You know what? It is important. Learn them. Right. So this is your reflex angle at A. Right? So what is it equal to, Zafi?
262 degrees.
How much, honey?
262.
Thank you. So 262 degrees. Perfect. Athena, are you there?
Yeah.
Let's do one together. I want to do one with all of you. All right, so let me just draw it quickly. This is what, number 6? The 6. Right, so say B is here, E is here. And then I have this line. The north line is here. Okay, good. Okay, this angle over here is 106 degrees. Okay, Athena, how would we find the bearing of B
The
from
what?
A? Bearing of B from A.
Okay. Miss, you mean like the
What we've been
who
doing
you're
all along.
Huh?
What we've been doing all along, like all of these. So what is the bearing of B from A?
Miss, what do you mean like 106?
No, the bearing of B from A. Did you see how I did these examples with the other girls?
The reflex angle.
Well, it's not the reflex, it's not knowing that it's the reflex angle, it's being able to identify what the bearing of B from A would be, which is, yes, it's the reflex angle here, but it's being able to tell that is the angle formed between the north line at your starting point and your line connecting B to A. So how would we calculate it? Is it going to be 106?
Okay, so 360 minus 1 is 106.
Because it's this angle on the outside here. Right? So this is your bearing of B from A. I want you all to be able to use the language and understand what it means, because as part of the trigonometry question, your question 10, bearings come in it all the time. So you have to be able to properly identify a bearing, define what it is. You're not going to have to write the definition of what it is, but to be able to identify it, you need to know what the definition is because you need to know what you're looking for. In all of these examples that we've done so far, we've just, it's simple diagrams. But when you see it, and we're going to look at that soon, when you see it in a complicated diagram, but you have triangles here and all sorts of different things, you have to be able to correctly identify the bearing, right? So the bearing is always the clockwise angle at between the north line at your starting point and that line connecting the 2 points that you're interested in. From tells us where your starting point is. So if it's the bearing of B from A is where your north line would be. That's your starting point. And your bearing is going to be the clockwise angle from that north line, right? So for this one, it is the reflex angle on the outside here, which is 360 take away 106. All right, and that is equal to how much, Athena? 360 take away 106?
254 degrees.
you. 254 degrees. Right. I think I did one with Isabel. Kaylin. Is Kaylin here? Kaylin, let's do one. Kaylin, are you there? No clue where Kaylin is. All right. Let's go. So let's say we have me. Anybody could do this one, okay? Right. I want to know what is my bearing of E from E. My bearing of B from E. Who wants to give it a try? This angle on the outside here is 310 degrees, by the way. My bearing of B from E. Take us.
Miss, would you still take away 310 from 360
Yeah, I
to
would.
get the answer?
Correct. Why?
Huh?
Why would I
Because
do
you're
that?
trying to get, because it's supposed to be, this one's supposed to be going clockwise, and right now
Yeah,
it's going anti-clockwise.
that's right. Very good, Ari. Excellent. Because I need the clockwise angle. So this is my clockwise angle here. What I'm given is the anti-clockwise angle. So the bearing of B from A in this question will be still 360, take away 310. So that is 50 degrees. So in this one, unlike the others, this is the acute angle at A. The acute angle at A is my bearing of B from A. All right? Wonderful. So take a little pause here. Right. Let's say a man starts from point A and walks 4 kilometers on a bearing of 036. Can't write the degree sign here, so just put it as that, right? 2 point, draw a diagram to represent this information. All right, so let's go. Says the man starts from point A and walks 4 km on a bearing of 36 degrees to point B. Draw a diagram to represent this information. Okay, so he's at point A. All right, so let's say this is point A here. And he walks for 4 km on a bearing of 36 degrees to point B. Draw a diagram to represent this information. So in other words, is on a bearing of 36 from A. Remember I told you all from tells us the starting point, but they actually said it, right? They said starts from a point A. So that means my north line will go at E, right? And then it says he walks 4 km on a bearing of 36 degrees to point B. So that means my point B has to be 36 degrees from this north line at A. So 36 degrees is going to be a acute angle. So I know it has to be less than 90 degrees. So let's say it's about here. That might be my 36-degree angle, right? So here is 36 degrees. This point here is P, and it tells us that it's 4 km. So this point, this line is going to be 4 km. All right? So a man starts from point A and walks 4 km on a bearing of 36 degrees to point B. Draw a diagram to represent this information. First things first, your starting point is A. So I know that that's where my north line goes. All right. And then I know that, well, for bearings, it has to be an angle between your north line and a line connecting your 2 points. So the next line connecting my 2 points has to be 36 degrees from that north line. And just in general, if you're drawing this freehand with no protractor, well, you know, this is 90 degrees. So anything, you would want something less than that, less than 45 too, which is half of the 90 degrees, so it'll be less than that, right? So that's how you just kind of estimate it. If it was like 120 degrees, well, a straight line is 180 degrees. So 120 degrees might be somewhere around here, right? So you have to like, even though you're not drawing them to scale, you don't want to like have it totally off, right? So for example, if it was a bearing of 90 degrees, I would expect it to look like this. I wouldn't expect an angle like this to be 90 degrees. That's obviously more than 90 degrees. So even when you are drawing, you're just sketching a diagram, you're not drawing it to scale, you still want to make sure it makes some kind of sense. Right, so let's look at another one, and then I'm gonna give you all some to try for me, which I want you to send me on WhatsApp, right? So let's do one more together, and then I'm gonna give you some to try. So let's see. Well, then I'll probably give you guys a little break, and then we'll try them, right? A boy, no, not a boy. A car is driven. A car is driven 30 km on a bearing of 168 degrees. It starts at point P, and finishes point Q. Right, so I want to draw a diagram to represent this information. Guys, tell me, what is my starting point?
Your starting point is P.
The starting point is P. It literally says that, right? It literally says it starts at point P. So my starting point is at P. What does that tell me? My starting point at P tells me what? Why is that information important? Anybody? Why do I need to know where the starting point is? Okay, I'm gonna start to call y'all because nobody's answering. Safi, why do I need to know where the starting point is?
So you'll know where to put your marker,
What
or
marker?
the north marker, or you'll know which angle to use. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, pretty much, right? I need to know where I'm starting so that I know where my north line goes because my bearing is between that north line and the line connecting the 2 points. So if I'm at P, so this is my point P, as Zafi said, my north line goes there. Okay? And then so this is my north line. And then he stops at Q, and that's 168 degrees. Now, 168 degrees is more than 90 degrees and less than 180. So I might expect it to be like maybe, you know what, let me use the line. Oh no, what just happened? Right, let me use the actual line. Right, so Q might have to be like down here. Might be Q. So this is where Q will go. So tell me now, guys, where would that 168-degree bearing be? Will it be here, the blue angle, or the green angle? Gosh, keep doing that. Yeah, would it be the blue angle or the green angle? Where would be the bearing of Q from P?
The blue.
Blue, right? Because that's the clockwise angle between the line NP, the north line, and P, and PQ. So the blue angle is my bearing. So in my diagram, I would like to label that. So this is my angle here. It's 168 degrees. Perfect. Thank you very much. This point, we're going to pause for a little bit. And boy starts from C. So we know that C is our starting point, right? C is our starting point. So that means our north line goes at C, right? So this would be our starting point here. This is our north line since it starts from C and cycles for 12 km on a bearing of 213 degrees to D. So 213 degrees, if you're starting at the north here, and 213 degrees will start here and go all the way around till about here. So that would be your bearing of 213 degrees. And then this point is D. It also tells us that it's for 12 km. So this line, CD, is 12 km, right? So it says he starts at C. This is your starting point. So your north line goes there. And he cycles for 12 km on a bearing of 213 degrees. So remember, you're starting at C, so your north line is there, and you're going on an angle. So that's going to be the clockwise angle from all the way around here to here. So this is your bearing of 213 degrees, right? It's a reflex angle, so it cannot be this angle here. Even if you mistakenly did that, there's no way this angle on the inside here could be 213 degrees, right? So that's the first one. The second one, town X is 260 km from town Y. So 260 km from town Y. If it's from town Y, that is your starting point. So Y, this is Y. So you're going to put your north line, you're going to put your north line at Y. This is where your north line would be. It says the bearing of X from Y is 282 degrees. So if it's 282 degrees, you're starting at your north line, right? At Y, since that's your starting point. And that is going to open from there all the way out here to make 260 degrees. So this, let's say this is your angle. So Y might be up here. So your angle between your north line, your clockwise angle between your north line and X and YX, sorry, this is X. This angle here is 282 degrees, and your distance, XY, will be 260 km. Should be your diagram. Okay, so if you didn't have it, so it's okay. Just copy it down. Make sure you understand why it is that way, though. If you don't, let me know. Next one says a man walks from A. So if he is from A, that means A is my starting point. So let's say here is A. So I'm going to put my north line at A because you always put your starting point, your north line at your starting point. Okay, so this is my north line. And it's A is on a from A on a bearing of 27 degrees to B. So you'll be opening from here. 27 degrees might just be right there, or even less than that, actually. Be like this. So this will be where B is. That angle inside there is your bearing of 27 degrees. Your distance from A is 11 km. So that should be your diagram. Should probably draw it a little bigger. But yeah, you got the gist of it. Right? Copy these down if you don't have it, please, or take a picture. I am going to send it afterwards. All right. Here we're gonna do an exercise here. Safi, I didn't get anything from you. Is it because you didn't understand them?
It's not that I didn't understand. I was dealing with my father.
Oh, okay. But you back now,
Yeah.
right? What about the rest of you who I didn't get anything from? I didn't get anything from Atina. Yeah. Okay, Nia, I know you can't send me. Yeah,
I wasn't exactly sure if I was correct.
okay. Still send it next time, okay? So I could guide you. All right. So we're gonna do this exercise instead. I'm gonna actually send y'all this worksheets on WhatsApp, right? Because I don't know if the whole thing would show. Actually, no, it can. So for this one, you have to calculate the bearing of A from P, right? So let me send this to you guys on WhatsApp as well. This is what we're gonna do for the rest of the class, actually. And I want you to send me your work. I'm still gonna stay on. I'm gonna do questions 1 to 3 in about, I'll do question 1 to begin with, and then I'll let you do 2 to 3 by yourself, and then I'll do it. But I'm only gonna do it after I get from each of you. Even if you're not sure, still send it because then I'll be able to help you, right? So please send it, even if you're not sure. Even if it's wrong, doesn't matter. Now is the time to get things wrong, right? So this is how I would be able to guide you properly. Um, 1 second, I want to send it on WhatsApp as well. So you can have it. Right. So for each of these, we are going to calculate the bearing of A from P. One of the main things in order to calculate the bearings is to be able to identify what exactly is the bearing of P from P. So if P is your starting point, that's why you have your north line at P. The bearing of A from P is going to be this angle over here. This is your bearing of A from P, right? Now, this whole angle here is 90 degrees, right? This entire angle here is 90 degrees. So if from here to here is 50, then the remaining is the bearing of A from P. So for this will be, the bearing of A from P will be 90 take away 50, which will give me 40 degrees. And remember, you have to write it in using 3 digits. For number 2, I'm just going to show you what the bearing is, and then you'll do your own calculations. By now, you should know that this means it's a right angle, which is 90 degrees, right? So in number 2, the bearing of A from P is going to be this entire angle here. And that entire angle is made up of the 90-degree angle plus this angle of 35 degrees. So the bearing of A from P will be 90 plus 35, which will be equal to 125 degrees. So the bearing of A from P here will be 125 degrees. I know I said I was only going to do question 1, but I'm also going to do question 3 here. Bearing of A from P again. A from P will be this entire angle on the outside here, the clockwise angle from the north line at P and the line AP. So the whole thing here is 180 degrees, and from here to here is 25. So this angle will be 180 take away 25, which will give me 155 degrees. Good. So at this point, I want you all to do questions 4 to 9 for me. Please draw the diagram, and on your diagram, use a different color to show me where your bearing is. Guys, for number 4, the bearing of A from P is going to be this angle the outside here. So it includes the straight angle, which is 180 degrees, plus this little piece here, which is 49. So the bearing here will be 180, 49, which gives me 129 degrees. Okay, guys, I'm gonna go through the rest for you, with you, and for you if you need. Okay, so number 5, the bearing is the angle between your north line and the line connecting A to B. So that's going to be this entire angle on the outside here. Three. That's going to be this entire angle here. And that angle is made up of this one, which is 90 degrees, and this one that's 121 degrees. So therefore, the bearing here will be 90 plus 121, which gives me 90 plus 121, 211 degrees. So that's the bearing. Number 6, the bearing of A from P is going to be this clockwise angle on the outside here. Right? Now to figure out what that angle is equal to, well, remember all of these angles add up to 360 degrees, right? But also, and they should have actually, they made a mistake because they were supposed to put this as 90 degrees here. So if here is 90, so this 90 plus this 16 plus whatever this angle is on the outside here are all angles around the point P. So that means they all add up to 360 degrees. Also, there are 2 ways that you could figure out what angle P is equal to. One way is by subtracting the sum of 90 and 16 from 360. Or you could recognize, now guys, if this is giving you trouble, it's going to have to do with you working out angles around a point. And so if you find that you can identify the bearing, but then the actual working is giving you trouble, that isn't really about the bearings. That's about you working out questions with angles around a point, right? So you'd want to do some revision there. So anyway, if we know that here is 90 degrees, then that means this angle up until this point, right? So angle P, well, NPA, this angle here, plus 16 degrees will actually be equal to 270 degrees. Because if here is 90, then the rest is 270 degrees. So to find what this angle is, this angle plus 16 gives me 270. So I can simply say 270 take away 16, and that would give me the bearing. 270 take away 16, which is 254 degrees. That's one way to do it. The other way to do it would have been to say 360 minus 90 plus 16. So 90 plus 16 is 106. So this angle, if you're using the 360 degrees, it'll be 360 take away 106, and that gives me 254 degrees. So whichever way you chose to solve it, you're still going to get 254. But what you need to recognize is that this angle here is the bearing, right? So to find this angle, you can either recognize that from this angle on the outside here, all the way up until this line is 270. So it would mean that this angle, the bearing, plus 16 gives you 270. So to find the missing angle, which is your bearing, you would say 270 take away 16. However, you could have also looked at this as all of the angles around this point adds up to 360. So if you know that 90 and 16 are given, the remaining angle, which is your bearing, will be 360 take away 90 plus 16. All right. And number 7, the bearing of A from P. Again, it's your clockwise angle here. That's your bearing, right? The angle that I just highlighted in green. So this from, oh, sorry. Oh my gosh. Sorry. The bearing is from here all the way up to this. Why did it disappear? I don't know why that's happening. Hold on, guys. Yeah, so it's this whole angle all the way up to here. That's your bearing. So it will include this part here plus your 12 degrees. This part, all right, is actually equal to 270 degrees because this part is made up of 3 right angles, one here, and one here. So that's 270 degrees. So your bearing is going to be equal to 270 plus 12. Right? So that will be 270 plus 12, which gives me 282 degrees. Number 8, the bearing of A from P is going to be your clockwise angle. So this one on the outside here. So this one is easy because you only have 2 angles here, 137 and this angle on the outside. So those 2 will add up to 360. Therefore, your bearing will be 360 take away 137. And 360 take away 137 is 223 degrees. Finally, this one, the bearing of A from P, is going to be the angle on the outside here. So this angle will be 360 take away 55, which will give me 305 degrees. So again, if this exercise gave you a little trouble, you have to let me know what gave you trouble. Was it identifying which angle was the bearing, or was it actually working them out? Because both of those are 2 different skills. What is more important for me at this point is that you could correctly identify where the bearing is, right? Second thing is about being able to calculate angles around a point. If that gave you trouble, if you were able to correctly correctly identify the bearing, but then you had problems with calculating the angles, you need to let me know because I'll send you some practice on finding angles around a point. I'll send this with the complete solutions I'll post it to our Google Classroom. I'll also send it on the WhatsApp. Next week, we're going to continue with the bearings, guys. Today, we're going to stop. We're going to end the session here. But if you're still working, please try to finish it out. I'll send the solution. So if you're confused, you could watch it. And if you really, really have no clue what you're doing, just let me know.